The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, a story of time, loss, and the end of the world. In 3 days, the moon will fall, and when it does, everything ends. This is the story of the Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, a game not about saving the world once, but saving it again and again, knowing it will forget you ever did. Chapter 1: A Hero Lost. After the events of Ocarina of Time, the hero of time disappears from history. Link, still a child, sets out alone, searching for his lost fairy companion, Navi. No prophecy guides him, no kingdom calls his name, only regret. Deep in the forest, Link is ambushed by a lonely trickster known as Skull Kid, wearing a strange cursed mask. With mocking laughter, Skull Kid steals Link's horse and his ocarina and casts a cruel spell, transforming the once hero into a helpless Deku scrub. Link chases the Skull Kid and falls into a world that shouldn't exist. Chapter 2: Welcome to Termina. Link awakens in Termina, a twisted reflection of Hyrule. The faces are familiar, but the souls behind them are broken. Above it all hangs a terrible sight, a massive moon grinning with rage, slowly descending from the sky. In 3 days, it'll crash down to the world and destroy everything. The people of the clock tower argue, celebrate, deny, and despair, each trapped in their own problems as the end approaches. Here, Link meets the happy mask salesman, a man with a smile too wide and eyes too knowing. He promises to break Link's curse, but only if Link retrieves the mask Skull Kid stole. That mask has a name: Majora's Mask. Chapter 3: The Song of Time. Link fails. The moon draws closer. Time runs out. But at the very last moment, Link plays the Song of Time, and the world rewinds. The sun rises, the clock resets, and only Link remembers what's coming. Thus begins Majora's Mask's cruel truth. You cannot stop the end, only deny it. Again and again, Link relives the same 3 days. Each loop teaches him more about the world, about its people, and about its loss. Chapter 4: Masks of the Dead. In Termina, masks are not disguises, they are memories. Link gains masks that transforms him into fallen heroes. A Deku Scrub, born of regret, a Goron, mourning a lost leader, and a Zora, grieving a fallen musician. Each mask carries a soul. Each transformation is a reminder of someone who failed, or died. And yet Link wears their pain, so their stories can end in peace. Chapter 5: The Four Giants. The world is cursed. The swamp rots. The mountains freeze. The ocean decays. The dead rises from their graves. At the heart of each disaster stands a corrupted temple, and within each, a fragment of Majora's influence. Link learns the truth. Skull Kid was not always a monster. He was a lonely child, abandoned by his only friends, the Four Giants, ancient guardians of Termina. Majora's Mask fed on that loneliness. It promised Skull Kid a friendship. It gave him power. And then it took control. Chapter 6: The Final Day. On the eve of destruction, Link calls back the giants. They rise from every corner of the land and catch the falling moon, holding it back with titanic strength. But it's not over. Majora's Mask abandons the Skull Kid and ascends on its own, pulling Link inside the moon itself. There, a surreal field of masks and forgotten children, Link faces Majora, not as a god, not as a demon, but as a raw, chaotic emotion: fear, anger, loneliness, and Link defeats it. Chapter 7: A World That Forgets. Majora's Mask is destroyed. The moon is gone. The carnival of time begins. The people celebrate, never knowing how close they came to oblivion, never knowing how many times Link saved them. Skull Kid is forgiven. The giants return to sleep, and Link quietly leaves. In the forest, Skull Kid carves a picture into a tree: himself, the giants, the fairies, and Link. Proof that even the world forgets, someone remembers. The horrors of Majora's Mask. What generally makes Majora's Mask scary to me isn't the cheap horrors or jump scares. It's the constant, suffocating sense that nothing you do can truly matter in the long run. From the moment you enter Termina, the game makes it clear that this is not a world meant to be saved easily, or maybe at all. The most obvious source of the fear is the moon. It's impossible to ignore. That massive grinning face hanging from the sky feels less like a natural disaster and more like a conscious observer, watching everything unfold. As the 3-day cycle progresses, it grows closer, louder, and more aggressive, until it dominates the skyline entirely. By the final day, it feels oppressive, like it's pressing down on the world itself. No matter how prepared I feel, it's always there, reminding me that time is running out. But the moon alone wouldn't be nearly as terrifying without the game's fixation on death and grief. Almost everyone in Termina knows their end is coming, and watching how they respond to it is deeply unsettling. Some characters cling to routine, others panic, some deny reality entirely, and a few quietly accept their fate. The most disturbing part is that, in many cases, I can't truly save them. Even when I help someone, time resets, and their suffering begins again. That idea, that compassion is temporary and relief is fleeting, creates kind of existential dread that no other Zelda game has given attempts to. The time loop itself is a huge part of that fear. Progress never feels permanent. I can solve a problem, reunite lovers, or help a lost soul find peace, but the clock keeps ticking and eventually everything is erased. That constant reset doesn't feel empowering, it feels cruel. It reinforces the idea that Link is trapped in a system he can't fully control, endlessly struggling against the apocalypse that keeps repeating. Instead of feeling like a hero, I often feel like a witness to the end of the world, forced to watch over what happened over and over again. The atmosphere only deepens this unease. The music often feels sparse, warped, or melodic, and the silence is used just effectively as sound. Characters like the Man in Black, the unsettling Moon Children, and the bizarre alien invasion at Romani Ranch all feel slightly off, like they don't fully belong in reality. Then there are statues. The Deku Scrub Corpse, the Elegy of Emptiness, statues that mimic Link's empty form, which are some kind of most disturbing visuals that Nintendo has ever put into a game. They're uncanny, lifeless, and wrong in a way that sticks with me way too long after I stop playing. At the center of all, it's Majora's Mask itself. Unlike Zelda villains, Majora doesn't feel motivated by its conquest of power. It feels chaotic, cruel, almost playful in its destruction. The way it possesses the Skull Kid, twists its emotions, and abandons him entirely makes the mask feel less like a tool and more like a parasite. When it finally reveals its true form during the final battle, it becomes clear that Majora isn't just evil, it's inhumane. There's no reasoning with it, no understanding it, and that unpredictability makes it terrifying. Even the side quests, usually a comforting distraction in Zelda games, often make the experience heavier. Many of the stories end in quiet tragedy. People still die, relationships still fail. Some characters never find peace, no matter how much effort I put in. The game doesn't reward me with the illusion that everything can be fixed, and that honestly is unsettling in a way that few games are willing to embrace. To me, Majora's Mask isn't scary because it tries to be. It's scary because it forces me to confront ideas most games avoid: inevitability, loss, powerless, and the fear of doing your best still might not be enough. And that lingering discomfort is exactly why it stuck with me for so long, and why, even now, it feels more like a psychological horror experience rather than a traditional adventure game. Within my own perspective and research, I've compiled the biggest theories. The nature of Termina. One of the most fundamental questions is simple: what is Termina? Several popular interpretations exist. Parallel world theory. Termina exists as a parallel world to Hyrule. This is supported by the reused character models and mirrored roles. Purgatory/afterlife theory. Link is dead, and Termina represents a liminal space where he processes grief and death. Pocket dimension. Preferred. Termina is a pocket dimension opened by Majora itself. The purgatory theory struggles under scrutiny as both the Skull Kid and the Happy Mask Salesman are explicitly established as individuals that Link met during the Ocarina of Time. A pocket dimension created or accessed by Majora better explains Termina's warp logic. Majora, artifact or entity. Many interpretations frame Majora's Mask as a cursed artifact, a projection of Skull Kid's psyche, a metaphor for grief or trauma. However, these interpretations fail to explain Majora's independent will. Majora escalates chaos beyond the Skull Kid's intent and manipulates reality itself, aka like the moon, transformations, and time pressure. In conclusion, Majora is not symbolic. It's a living, godlike entity sealed within a mask, consistent with how Zelda lore treats sealed evils. Why Link? At first glance, Link appears to be an unlucky victim. Wrong place, wrong time. But the conflict takes on a deeper meaning when viewed as a clash of opposites. Majora embodies chaos, cruelty, and instability. Link represents restraint, empathy, and order. This contrast becomes explicit during the final confrontation. The Moon Children refer to Link as the true bad guy, and in the Japanese version, the fierce deity is referred to as an Oni god, a demon god. This suggests that the fierce deity may possess a power that rivals or even surpasses Majora's. The fierce deity and the gods of order and chaos. The original theory. Hyrule was created by the Golden Goddesses, who also gave rise to Hylia, a force of pure good. In opposition stands Demise, the god of evil. But what if cosmetic balance did not stop there? This theory proposes two additional divine forces: Majora, the god of chaos, and the fierce deity, the god of order. In this framework, Majora fought alongside Demise. The fierce deity fought alongside Hylia and her chosen companion. Both were ultimately sealed away. In the fierce deity was the original hero, then Link may be the reincarnation of his spirit, just as Zelda is the reincarnation of Hylia. This would explain why the fierce deity mask resembles Link, why Link alone can't wield its power, and why Majora recognized Link as an enemy. The line, "You are the bad guy," may not be irony, it may be recognition. Why masks? The largest unanswered question still remains: why masks at all? Possible explanations include sealing divine power into a physical form, ensuring resurrection or a controlled re-emergence, a tool created by the gods to empower mortal champions. The fierce deity mask may not be a prison, but a vessel, designed to awaken only the correct soul who inhabits it. The Moon Tribe Theory, expanded interpretation. This theory reframes several elements as literal rather than symbolic. Core claims are: Majora is living as a godlike being. A Termina-based tribe once worshipped Majora. After a great calamity, the tribe was relocated to the moon. This tribe became the Moon Tribe. The supporting evidence is the Moon Children resemble the happy mask salesman. They ask Link if he will become a mask salesman, a cultural rite, not a metaphor. The Song of Healing is a tribal practice tied to masks and the preservation of souls. The fierce deity mask is a sacred artifact of this tribe, preserved to oppose Majora. The moon is a literal homeland, not a dreamscape. The happy mask salesman asks as a trial emissary, preserving the mask and guiding the outsiders. The Giants. The Giants exist outside of Majora's influence and serve as protectors of Termina itself. Their role reinforces that Majora is a real external threat, not a psychological abstraction. Why psychological theories fall short? Psychological interpretations struggle to explain the existence of the happy mask salesman, the Moon Children's cultural continuity, the Giants' physical intervention, Majora's constant predatory behavior. Symbolism exists, but symbolism does not negate literal existence in Zelda lore. The Happy Mask Salesman is dead. One of the most persistent theories suggests that the Happy Mask Salesman is already dead. This theory draws heavily from the game's recurring motif of unresolved spirit characters, who cannot move on during unfinished business. People argue that the salesman's unfinished business is Majora's Mask itself. When Link first encounters him, the salesman is frantic and distressed over the mask being stolen by the Skull Kid. Under this interpretation, his inability to move on is tied to the danger that Mask possesses and his responsibility to recover it. However, this theory is far from definitive. The Happy Mask Salesman concern may simply stem from first-hand knowledge of Majora's destructive power, rather than post-mortem limbo. His ability to freely travel between worlds and his apparent longevity complicate the idea that he is merely another restless spirit. Crimea has a crush on Andrew. More grounded character-focused theories center on Crimea, the older sister at the Romani Ranch. Crimea mentions that her friend Andrew was getting married, yet she seems noticeably unhappy about it. This has led to speculation that Crimea harbors romantic feelings, either for Kathy or for Andrew herself. Some interpret her discomfort as jealousy, while others argue it reflects deeper emotional complexity. Crimea may be simply struggling with the anxiety of change, the fear of losing a close relationship, or the overwhelming dread of the moon's impending fall. Given Termina's emotional atmosphere, her sadness does not require romantic explanation to be valid. The Moon Children and the Ancient Tribe. The children encountered inside the moon resemble the happy mask salesman, and the explicitly mentioned becoming the mask salesman themselves. This has led to the theory that they are descendant of the ancient tribe responsible for sealing Majora within the mask. If this such tribe existed, it would make sense for them to dedicate themselves to the collection, preservation, and distribution of masks, ensuring that the dangerous artifacts never fall into the wrong hands. Training multiple successors rather than entrusting one guardian will prevent the loss of sacred knowledge over time. This interpretation ties directly into the broader Moon Tribe theory and frames the Moon Children as not as symbolic constructs, but as literal heirs continuing a cultural duty. The Stone Tower was used to seal Majora. One interpretation of the Stone Tower posits it was constructed as a part of massive ritual to seal Majora within the mask. The tower is the largest structure in Termina, and they state that the darkness flows even from it once the doors are opened. If Majora was imprisoned there for an extended period of time, the lingering corruption makes sense. The inverted gravity, the immense scale, and the ritualistic symbolism that suggests a structure built for a singular, catastrophic purpose. Termina was created by Majora. Another widely discussed theory suggests that Termina itself was created by Majora's Mask. Given the mask's immense power, capable of manipulating the moon, warping bodies, and reshaping reality, it's not unreasonable to suspect it could create an entire world. Terminus surreal geography, mirrored inhabitants, and distorted logic, the result could be of Majora drawing upon the memories of the Skull Kid, Link, or previous hosts. The moon's sediment phase interior world further enforce that the idea reality itself bends under Majora's influence. The stone tower was used to summon Majora. In contrast, an opposing theory suggests that the stone tower was designed to summon Majora, not seal it. According to the interpretation, the people of Termina built the tower as an act of defiance against the golden goddesses, seeking a new deity to worship. This explains the abundance of Majora's imagery throughout the tower and the advanced magical knowledge required to invert gravity. Rather than containing Majora, the tower may have been a beacon, an invitation. Link is conquering death. A different theory suggests that Majora's Mask is about Link confronting and overcoming death. After saving Hyrule, Link is returned to a time layer where no one remembers his heroism. He loses Navi and his sense of purpose. In Termina, Link repeatedly soothes lost souls using the sound of healing, taking on their unsolved burdens and completing their unfinished business. Through these acts, he symbolically conquers death, not by avoiding it, but by helping others accept it. Link is dead. The darker counterpart to the above theory proposes that Link is already dead. According to this idea, Link became lost in the woods while searching for Navi, meeting the same fate as others who wandered in there without protection. Under this interpretation, Termina represents Link's mind processing death. The name Termina itself invokes finality, and the game's obsession with time and acceptance aligns closely with this reading. While compelling, this theory conflicts the presence of the characters Link encountered in the game. Termina as a parallel world. One of the most accepted theories I spoke about before is that Terminal is a parallel world to Hyrule. Shared characters, models, and mirrored roles support this idea. However, Termina notably lacks references to the Triforce and the Golden Goddesses. This absence may suggest that history diverged dramatically, or that the people rejected or erased divine influence entirely, leading to credibility to theories involving the Stone Tower's rebellion and against the heavens. While many of these theories contradict one another, and some have been dismissed outright by developers, they persist because Majora's Mask invites interpretation rather than answers. Its ambiguity is intentional, and mysteries endure precisely because they resist revolution. 26 years later, players still debate the meaning, uncover new details, and interpret its symbolism. Whether cosmic myth, psychological journey, or something in between, Majora's Mask still remains one of the most haunting and endlessly fascinating games ever made. I already know this is going to be a long video, but we're here already, might as well talk about the Master of Majora's Mask. Master the emotional and mechanical core of the Legends of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Unlike previous games, masks are not just collectibles or disguises. Many of them contain souls, unfinished business, or fragments of identity. Through masks, Link does not simply gain abilities, he inherits lives, burdens, and responsibilities. They can be broadly divided into transformation masks, collectible masks, and unwearable masks. Transformation masks. These masks fundamentally alter Link's body and identity. Each one is created through a song of healing, binding a lost soul into a mask and allowing Link to take its form. The first mask Link obtains, the Deku mask, is created after Link retrieves the Ocarina of Time and learns the Song of Healing. It is heavily implied to contain the soul of the Deku butler's son who died, alone and forgotten. When worn, Link becomes a Deku Link, able to hop across water, fly using Deku flowers, stun enemies, and fire bubbles. However, this form is fragile, fire is deadly, and water becomes lethal after too many skips. The Deku Mask establishes that the game's central idea, power gained through loss. Obtained by healing the spirit of Darmani, the fallen Goron hero, the Goron Mask allows you to take on Darmani's identity. Other Gorons recognize Link as him, blurring the line between impersonation and reincarnation. Goron Link can lift heavy objects, roll at high speeds, punch with flaming fists, perform Gordon Pound, and walk on lava. This mask embodies the strength born from sacrifice and the burden of living to a fallen hero's legacy. The Zora mask is formed from the soul of Miku, the guitarist of Indigos. Miku's death is sudden and tragic, and his unfinished business revolves around protecting Lu and recovering her stolen eggs. Zora Link can swim with incredible speed, fight underwater, breathe indefinitely, and use razor-sharp fins as boomerangs. Like the Goron mask, Zora mask forces Link to become someone else in order to help the living heal from the loss. Collectible masks. These 20 masks do not transform Link physically, but instead grant abilities, unlock quests, or influence how the world reacts to him. Many are deeply tied to identity, routine, and social roles. Rather than listing everyone mechanically, they fall into a few thematic groups. Firstly, there's masks of social identity. These masks allow Link to assume roles within Termina's society. Caffei's mask allows Link to ask about Cafe during the Anu and Cafe quest. Postman Hat allows access to the postbox and reflects the postman's rigid devotion to routine. Captain's Hat allows Link to command the undead soldiers of Icona. Garrow's masks open the path to Icona Canyon and summons assassins who provide cryptic hints. Each reinforces the idea that who you are determines how the world treats you. Masks of movement and utility. These masks improve situational advantages. Bunnyhood drastically increases speed and jump distance. Stone Mask renders Link nearly invisible to guards and many enemies. Blast Mask functions as a reusable explosive. The Great Fairy's Mask helps locate stray fairies within dungeons. These masks emphasize the adaptation rather than the power. Masks of Truth, Perception, and the Mind. Some masks allow Link to see what others cannot. The Mask of Truth lets Link hear the thoughts of animals and understand gossip stones. The Mask of Sense reveals invisible scent trails, uncovering hidden objects and secrets. All Night Mask prevents Link from falling asleep, allowing him to hear Anu's grandmother's stories in full. These masks reinforce a theme that understanding often requires endurance and patience. Masks of Performance and Ritual. Several masks are tied to music, dance, and tradition. Bremen Mask leads animals to a parade and helps the Cockatoo Chicks. Karamu's mask teaches forgotten dance and allowing joy to spread again. Dongira's mask reunites the frog choir, restoring harmony. Troop leader mask claims Gorman brothers are resolving lingerish. These masks emphasize the healing through expression rather than combat. I'm already apologizing now about my pronunciation. These words are hard, I'm sorry. Masks of Relationship and Love. A few masks are emotionally resonant as these. Romani's mask grants access to the milk bar, symbolizing trust and belonging. Couples masks are formed from the Sun and Moon masks, represent unity, commitment, and acceptance in the fate of the apocalypse. It is one of the few masks created not from death, but from mutual devotion. Giant's Mask. The Giant's Mask is unique. It allows Link to grow to a massive size, but only during the battle with Timworld. Unlike other masks, it's not tied to identity or disguise. It exists solely to confront overwhelming force with equal magnitude. Unwearable masks and remains. Some masks cannot be worn at all. The remains of Gore, and Twin Mold, I'm so sorry for my pronunciation, please guys, don't get mad at me, are obtained after defeating each major boss. These remains are worn by the Moon Children during the final confrontation, turning hostile as Majora forces Link to relive the past victories. The Sun Mask and the Moon Mask, created by Cafe and Aju, cannot be worn independently. Only when they are united do they become the couple's mask, reinforcing that some things are incomplete on their own. In Majora's masks, masks are not costumes. They are memories. They are grief. They are roles that people leave behind when they die. By wearing them, Link does not erase the past. He carries it forward, ensuring that no soul, no matter how small, is truly forgotten. The most mysterious mask in the game, the Fierce Deity mask, is attained only after collecting all the other normal masks and completing the trials inside the moon. When worn, Link transforms into the Fierce Deity, an adult, godlike form wielding in massive two-handed swords that fires devastating energy beams. This mask can only be used in the boss rooms. Unlike the others, the Fierce Deity is not clearly tied to a single soul. Instead, it feels ancient, divine, and unsettling, raising the question of whether Link is wielding justice or something far darker. Unfortunately, guys, I know some people might not like this, but we've reached my point in the video where I talk about my own thoughts and opinion. So, one of my biggest issues with Majora's Mask is how short the main quest feels, largely because it's just not enough dungeons. With only 4 main temples, the game ends up leaning heavily on filler to stretch its length. And as someone who plays Zelda primarily for the dungeon design, it's incredibly frustrating. It often feels like I spend far more time jumping through hoops, waiting on timed events, or redoing a side content than actually exploring the temples. And sometimes it takes longer to reach a dungeon than it does to actually complete it. The 3 day cycle only amplifies this problem. Losing progress because the time runs out feels punishing rather than challenging, especially when it forces me to repeat entire sections or even replay the dungeons I've already finished. That frustration is made worse by the restrictive save system in the original version, which makes every reset feel riskier than it needs to be. On top of that, the game's reliance on reused assets of the Ocarina of Time, its lack of meaningful mechanism improvements make it feel less innovative than it should have been. While I appreciated the ambition behind the system and the darker tone, in practice the constant pressure, forced repetition, and lack of dungeon content made the game feel more stressful than enjoyable for me. And I can't help but wish the game focused more on expanding its core adventure instead of padding its way through the mandatory side content. Despite my complaints, I can't deny that Majora's Mask excels in ways that no other Zelda game really has. From the moment I stepped into Termina, that atmosphere is unforgettable. Dark, surreal, emotionally heavy, with the looming moon creating a constant sense of dread that makes every action feel meaningful. The 3 day cycle, while stressful at times, is also one of the game's greatest strengths, as it gives a world a sense of life, structure, and a few games achieve. NPCs follow real schedules, events unfold whether I'm there or not, and my choices in action actually matter. The side quests where the game truly shines for me, especially stories like Anu and Caves, which feel more emotionally resonant than the main quest in other games, and they give real weight to saving Termina. The mask system is also brilliant, particularly the transformation masks, which fundamentally change how I move, fight, and interact with the world, making each region feel more mechanically distinct. Even with only 4 main dungeons, their quality is exceptional. Places like the Stone Tower Temple stand out as one of the most creative and challenging designs in the entire series. In the haunting soundtrack, the impressive technical achievement, or such short development cycle, and deeply satisfying reward of the fierce deity mask at the end. It's hard not to admire how bold and confident the game is. For all its rough edges, Majora's Mask delivers an experience that feels personal, experimental, and emotionally rich. That's why it has stayed with me far longer than many safer Zelda games ever have. I usually don't use this segment in my game reviews, but due to the backstory on the creation, I'll include it, and this video is already long, so I might as well make it longer. Majora's Mask exists because of the pressure, and you can feel that pressure in every part of the game. After an overwhelming success of Ocarina of Time, 1998, Nintendo initially planned to something for more modest, a Master Quest style expansion for Nintendo 64. However, they pushed for something bolder, a completely new Zelda game rather than a remix of the old one. But with one brutal condition they agreed. The game had to be finished in just 1 year. The decision defied Majora's Mask entirely. With such limited development window, the team was forced to reuse Ocarina of Time engine, character models, animations, and many textures. The project, originally known as Zelda Gaiden, a side story, simply did not have the luxury building a massive new world or redesigning the core systems from scratch. Instead, the developers leaned into the density rather than the scale, creating a smaller world that felt tightly interconnected and carefully scheduled. While some players, myself included, noticed that the reuse of assets limited dungeon count, I can't deny that this constraint also pushed the team forward far more than experimental ideas. One of the most significant results of this pressure was the 3 day cycle. Early concept included a full day 7, but this was ultimately reduced to 3 days, to make the system manageable for players and feasible for the team. Ironically, what began practical compromise became the greatest defining feature: the looming time limit, the representing schedules, and the sense that the world moves on without you reflecting on the developer's own anxiety during production. The constant feeling of running out of time doesn't just serve gameplay, it mirrors real world stress the team was under while making the game. That sense of impending doom was further amplified by the game's tone. Unlike Ocarina of Time, which leans heavily into traditional heroic fantasies, Majora's Mask embraces surrealism, melancholy, and outright discomfort. The falling moon, obsessed with routine, and the repeated failures to save the world from the first try feel like reflections from the real world concerns. To me, this is where Majora's Mask separates itself completely from its predecessor and becomes something far more introspective. The Mask system is another example of turning limitation into strength. Originally conceived from leftover ideas in Ocarina of Time, Master Majora's Mask became central to the gameplay and theme. Transformation masks allowed the developers to radically change the movement and combat without building entire new characters from scratch. But they also introduced the game's strongest narrative concept: identify with something borrowed, temporary, often rooted in loss. While not every mask is entirely useful, the system as a whole is one of the most creative mechanisms that Nintendo has ever implemented. Development itself has often been described as a kind of creative fever dream. The team worked in intense pace, making bold decisions quickly and sometimes without fully knowing how players would react. In my opinion, it explains why Majora's Mask feels so different and occasionally uneven compared to other Zelda titles. Some systems feel over-designed, some under-explained, but none of them feel safe. By the time the game was finalized, now titled The Legends of Zelda Majora's Mask, it was clear that Nintendo had something strange on its hands. Despite rushed development, the game shipped in remarkably polished state, even if it lacked the sheer breadth of Ocarina of Time. When it was sacrificed in size, it made up for in atmosphere, experimentation, and emotional impact. Looking back, I think Majora's Mask is a perfect example of creative restrictions can lead to something unforgettable. While many flaws stem directly from its rushed development, fewer dungeons, reused assets, and awkward systems, those constraints also gave us one of the bold and most personal games Nintendo has ever released. It may not be the most comfortable Zelda experience, but that discomfort exactly why stands out to more decades later. I've been Critical Fate. Thank you for watching.